center came
He's
down
had the
during
gall
your
to
brother's
go after
reign.
my mother.
Remember that.
Hold on.
Let me finish this. He's had the gall to go after my mother.
That's not keeping
Look, I
us
won
safe.
the lottery when I was born 63 years ago and looked up and I saw my mom. My mom is the strongest woman I know.
She should
this
be
is
running.
not about my family or his family.
Okay.
This is about the South Carolina families that need someone to be a commander-in-chief that can lead. And I'm that person.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, just a little bit from the debate over the weekend. And joining us now is Alan Keyes, former U.S. ambassador to the United Nations and, of course, a former presidential candidate as well. Hello, sir.
Hi, how are you?
It's always good to talk to you, Mr. Ambassador. All right, let's start with what you have really taken to task, and that's this whole Republican primary. What does this show you? What does this show you, the way things have unfolded? And, you know, with Donald Trump now threatening to sue Ted Cruz over the birth issue if he doesn't pull certain ads and stop lying, according to Trump. What does this whole thing show you? It's kind of unprecedented.
Well, I think we're actually watching the degradation of American politics that is directly owing to the fact that we now have two parties that refuse to represent the voters who actually support them one way or another. And the GOP in particular, it just has this record now of going to people, getting the votes out of the conservative GOP base, and then consistently in every respect betraying them. And so there's been a great deal of disaffection, particularly on the issues Donald Trump has played around with: immigration, the lax enforcement of immigration laws, the lax surveillance of our border. These things have gotten people very angry.
You say played around with, not to interrupt, but you say what Donald Trump has played around with. Does that imply that he's not sincere or realistic or what?
Come on. I don't understand. People who are ignorant and don't have information about him, they may buy into this rhetoric that he's been using for the last few months. But I look at the whole tenor of his life and career, and he's a leftist Democrat who supported the Clintons, who actually supported the Gang of Eight proposals, who actually took views of immigration that in terms of even the little lax enforcement that G.W. Bush was willing to do, he didn't like that and thought it was mean-spirited and so forth and so on. He invented himself, or reinvented himself, for the purpose of exploiting this disaffected Republican base. And I think it all has only one purpose, which is to destroy the conservative movement once and for all and forever in America.
You think he's consciously, I'm sorry again to interrupt, you think he's consciously out to destroy the conservative movement? That's his goal?
Well, I wouldn't ascribe it to him necessarily. I think Donald Trump is, like all these people, just a tool. And we are faced now with what has been a consistent move on the part of certain forces in this country, particularly moneyed forces, that have attacked the American middle class, that have sought to overthrow our Constitution, that have sought stands on issues like gay marriage and other things that are directly opposed to the doctrine of God-endowed unalienable rights, all with a view to establishing an oligarchic regime in America controlled by them. And Trump, I think, is their tool. I said this the moment he stepped on the stage, that he was an elitist faction ploy, and we've been watching as our way of life is being dismantled by a powerful force of money and power allied in order to undermine the actual sovereignty of the American people. And that's what Trump is up to.
Well, he might say that I'm beholden to no one. I don't take anybody's money. I'm my own man.
Well, I don't care about money and all of this. I'm looking at the man's life. He says he's this and that and the other thing, but he only said it yesterday. And I don't believe people who reinvent themselves in direct opposition to everything they've stood for in their entire lives. And then come to me or anybody else with sense and expect that they shall be believed.
Who do you like, Mr. Ambassador, on the Republican side?
Well, I think that we ought to be trying to discard this whole sham system. I mean, what is obvious in every respect is that it is now based upon deceit, media fabrication, and direct, sometimes, fraud in the election process. And that's because it's no longer a constitutional process. The Constitution says that on general election day next fall, there are no candidates for president. There are only candidates for elector, to decide who shall represent you in the vote for president. That truly empowers grassroots people to choose among people they know, people who really represent them, who will then have the power to choose a president based on actual knowledge and information, not media fabrication.
But you were a candidate, I think, 3 times. So again, we got 40 seconds left. When push comes to shove, I mean, you don't want to see Hillary or Bernie Sanders get in there or Joe Biden get in there. So, I mean, I would assume that if there are 2 people on the ballot, you will vote. I mean,
well, don't make any assumption of that kind. I think that I am sick to death of the thought that we shall be marshaled to the polls to vote for the death of our country either way we vote. And I think Americans need to wake up. There's plenty of time before the general election to put together an electoral college strategy that wins a majority for favorite son and daughter candidates in the electoral college in support of a platform that actually respects the grassroots desire to see our sovereignty restored, our strength restored.
Mr. Ambassador, great to talk to you, sir. Thank you very much. Stay well. We'll speak to you soon. More of the show coming up.